Erev Tov Rabotai, we are continuing with our Mishna Yomi, Masechet Ketubot. We are up to Perek Hey Mishnah Gimel. Today's Mishnayot should be Leilu Nishmat Neria ben Svetlana Ranbai Eliyahu ben Burchai Israelo ben Chana bad Miriam Menuchatam began Eden Amen and Avdi ben Chaim lechaim v'derefua shenemav Daniel Shalom ben Rosa betoch Shach Chulei Israel. The Torah commands that if a husband dies without children and is survived by one or more brothers, his widow is forbidden to marry anyone except one of the brothers. This marriage is called Yibum. The widow is called the Yavama, and each of the brothers, particularly the one who intends to marry her, is called a Yavam. If none of the brothers wants to marry her, a ceremony called Chalitza is performed, which permits her to marry someone else. The Mishnah discusses the law where the deceased husband and his brothers are Kohanim, but the Yavama is the daughter of a non-Kohen. Hayavam eno ma'achil bitruma. A Yavam who is a Kohen may not feed teruma to his Yavama before he marries her, before performing Yibum. The Kohen's widow is biblically forbidden to eat teruma during this time, although the Yavam is a Kohen. The Mishnah states what happens if her first husband died during the 12 months that she was given to prepare for their Nisuin. Asta shisha chodeshim b'fnei abal v'shisha chodeshim b'fnei Yavam. For example, if she spent 6 of the 12 months before the husband and the other 6 months before the Avam, meaning her husband died 6 months after he asked her to prepare for their Nisuin, and she spent the remaining 6 months waiting for Yibum, both the time she had when her husband was alive and the time she spends waiting for Yibum are included in the 12 months she is given to prepare for marriage. Or even if she spent almost all the 12 months before the husband except for one day that she spent before the Yavam, meaning her husband died one day before the end of the 12 months, or she spent almost all the 12 months before the Yavam except for one day before the husband, meaning her husband died the day after he asked her to prepare for their Nisuin, and she may not eat the Yavam's teruma. Even though 12 months have passed, she is not allowed to eat teruma until she actually marries the Yavam. In fact, even if the husband died after the entire 12 months has passed, or even after they had already performed Nisuin and she had started to eat his teruma, she must stop upon his death. At that point, she may not continue eating teruma on account of her husband because he is no longer alive, and she may not eat teruma on account of the Yavam because she has not yet married him. The Mishnah did not mention this situation that Rav explains because it limits itself to examples in which she was never allowed to eat teruma. The Mishnah goes back to the previous Mishnah's ruling that an ordinary bride, not Yavama, may eat teruma as soon as the time of her wedding arrives. Zo Mishnah Rishona. This was the first teaching, meaning it was the sages of an earlier generation who permitted a woman to eat teruma when the time of her wedding arrives. Bedin Shalacharen Amru, however, a rabbinic court that came after them said, En Aisha Ochelet Bitruma Shetikanes Lechuppah. A woman may not eat teruma until she actually enters the chuppah. If a husband finds out that his wife has a serious physical defect, which he had not been told about, he can claim that the marriage was held under false pretenses. The marriage is nullified retroactively and no divorce is required. It is as though the marriage never took place. The sages of the later generation were concerned that if a bride eats teruma before Nisuin and the groom finds such a defect at the time of Nisuin, when they start living together and the marriage is found to have been invalid, it would emerge that she had eaten teruma illegally. To prevent this from happening, these sages forbade a bride to eat teruma until after Nisuin. And that is Renabotai of Mishnah Gimel. Now, Mishnah Dalet is going to discuss the question of whether a person can acquire, sell, or give away something that does not yet exist or that he does not yet own. Davar shelo ba la'olam. For example, selling fruit before it is grown. Of course, even according to those who say that one can transfer ownership of such an object, the transaction does not take effect until the object comes into existence or one becomes its owner. The Mishnah deals with this question in the context of a husband who consecrates, donates to the temple, handiwork that his wife will produce in the future. Hamakdish ma'aseh de ishto, if someone consecrates his wife's future handiwork, harezu osa ve'ochelet, she may work and eat, meaning the handiwork does not become consecrated even when it comes into existence, so she may sell it and use the money to buy food for herself. We refer here to a wife who had claimed the right to keep her handiwork for herself and not let her husband have it. Although the sages granted her husband the right to his wife's work, this right was intended only as a form of compensation for supporting her. Therefore, if she chooses to give up her right to be supported by him, she keeps the income from her work. In that case, since the handiwork does not go to the husband, it is not his to consecrate. Therefore, even Rabbi Meir, we're going to see rules that one can consecrate something that does not exist. He agrees that this consecration fails to take effect. Now, even where a wife claims the right to keep her own handiwork, like in the previous case, her husband inherits it when he dies. The Mishnah now considers the law where a husband consecrated handiwork his wife will make in the future, and then after she produced it, she died and he inherited it. Hamotar, if he consecrated the extra handiwork that she will make in the future, Rabbi Meir Omerek, the Rabbi Meir says that it becomes consecrated when he inherits it. Although the handiwork did not exist when he consecrated it, the consecration takes effect once it is produced and he inherits it. Rabbi Yochanan HaSandlar Omer Chulin. However, Rabbi Yochanan HaSandlar says that her handiwork is not consecrated even after she dies and he inherits it, because in Rabbi Yochanan HaSandar's opinion, a person cannot consecrate something that does not yet exist or is not yet his. Now, this part of the Mishnah mentions the extra handiwork. A wife's handiwork can be divided into two parts. A, Ikar Maseh Yadeh, her main handiwork. This is the amount defined below in Mishnah 9, to which her husband is entitled in exchange for the support he provides her. And B, Motar Maseh Yadeh, her extra handiwork, which refers to whatever she makes in addition to the main portion. Her husband is not entitled to the extra handiwork unless he pays her a silver ma'ah each week, which she may spend as she sees fit, as is discussed in Mishnah 9. Both sections of our Mishnah deal with the wife who has the right to keep her own handiwork. She can claim the main handiwork by saying, I will not be supported by you and I will not give you my handiwork. In the case of the extra handiwork, she keeps it. If she says, I will not take the weekly ma'ah and I will not give you my extra handiwork. As far as the Mishnah's rulings are concerned, there is no difference between the main and extra parts of her handiwork. The law stated in the Mishnah's first section that the consecration does not take effect when the main handiwork is produced could also have been said about the extra handiwork. And Rabbi Meir's ruling in the Mishnah's second section that the extra handiwork becomes consecrated when the husband inherits it could likewise have been said about the main handiwork. And the commentaries deal why the Mishnah chose to deal with main handiwork in the first section and extra in the second section, but in any event, that is the Mishnah, and the Rav does tell us that the Halacha follows the opinion of Rabbi Yochanan ben HaSandlar, who says it is chulin, because a person cannot sanctify, cannot consecrate something, shelo ba la'olam, that is not yet in existence, or is not yet owned by the person. That is the Nabotai of today's Mishna Yomi. Baruch Adonai le'olam, amen v'amen.